Hi everybody, welcome to Live Blogger. I have combined all the videos in our responsive portfolio website designing series into this single long video so that it'll be easy for you to follow. So we are basically going to design this website from scratch using HTML, CSS and JavaScript, and this is completely responsive. And then in the end I will also show you how to host this website online for free using a service called Netlify and even on a Blogger website. And I will also leave the link of the source code in the description of this video so you can go ahead and check that out. Alright, so let's get started. And this is how the hero section of our website looks. So we can see we have some content over here and we have the hero image on the right. And if we scroll down, we can see we have the second section where we have the projects of our portfolio displayed over here. And we also have a hover effect. So if I hover over this image, we can see we have the title of the project displayed over here. In the same way, we have the title of all the other projects displayed over here. And if you scroll down, we can see that we have the services section and we have the 3 services displayed over here. We also have this hover effect. And if you scroll down even more, we have the testimonials section, and we can go to the next testimonial by clicking on this next button. And we also have the previous button. And we can also drag and go to the next testimonials. And if I scroll down even more, we have the skills displayed over here. So we have all these logos displayed over here. If I hover over any of these logo, we have the name of the language or the tool or the framework displayed over here. So this is the My Skills section. And if you scroll down even more, we have the Contact Me section. And here we can fill in these details, and we also have this button over here. And if you scroll down even more, we have the footer over here, and we have the social media icons displayed over here. And here we can see on the left we can go to these different sections directly. So this is a quick navigation menu. So for example, if I click on this services dot, we scroll down to the services section. And then if I click on this skills section, we are taken to the skills section. And if I click on this first dot over here, we are taken to the hero section. And we also have a button over here to go to the next section. So if I click on that, we go to the My Projects section. And if you notice over here in the navigation bar, if you scroll down a little bit, it changes the height. So we're going to also add this effect. And then lastly, we have this menu icon over here. And if I click on that, we have all the menu items displayed over here. And if I hover over any of these icons, we also have the hover effect. And if I click on any of these menu icons, so let's click on testimonials, and we are taken to the testimonials section. Let's go back to the home. And this is also responsive. So let me just decrease the width of this browser window. And here we can see this is the first breakpoint, and we have a different layout for the hero section. And if I scroll down, we can see that for the projects, we have 2 projects displayed in one row. In the desktop version, we had 3 projects displayed in a row, but here we have just 2 projects displayed. And we can see that we have the correct font size for all the other elements, and we also have lesser height for these logos. And here we can see for the footer we have a different layout, and the menu icon works alright. Right now let's decrease the width even more, and this is how the mobile version looks. Right, let's scroll down, and here we can see we have 1 project displayed in a row, and everything looks alright in the mobile version as well. And we can see for the My Skills section we have just 2 logos in a row. So that's basically how our portfolio website is going to look. Now in this video, we will set up our project and we'll create all the files, and we'll also add the links of the fonts, and we'll also create CSS variables for the colors. So let's get started. And here I have created this folder called portfolio website, and I just opened it with VS Code. And let's go ahead and create a new file, and we'll just name it index.html. And we also need to have a CSS file, so let's create a new file. I'll just name it style.css. And we'll also create one more file for the JavaScript. I'll just name it main.js. And let's start with the index.html file. Now in VS Code you have a shortcut where you can just press exclamation and press tab, and you'll have this basic HTML5 code. And here we will link our CSS file, so I'll just type link and press tab, and in the href I'll just type style.css, and here in the body I'll just link the JavaScript file, so I'll just type script :src and press tab, and in the src I'll just type main.js. Right now the next thing we will do is we will get the link of the fonts. So if you go back to our design, here we can see we need to have two fonts. One is this font called Railway, and the other font is called Inter. So let's get the link of these two fonts. So here I'm in fonts.google.com, and let's search for the fonts. So let's type Railway, and this is the font. Let's select the font, and we need to have two styles of this font. So if you go back to our design, here we can see we need to have the bold version, and if you scroll down we also need to have a thin version. So this is also the Railway font. So let's go back and we'll select this thin style from here. So let's click on select this style, and we also need to select a bold version. So let's scroll down and let's find a bold version. I think bold 700 looks fine, so let's select this. Right now you can click on this button called view your selected families, and here we can see we have the Railway font selected. Let's also select the Inter font. So let's go back and let's search for Inter, and let's select this font right here, and here we will select the regular version. So we'll select this regular 400, and here we can see we have the Railway font and also the Inter font, and this is the link of the fonts. So let's select this link, and let's copy and paste it inside the HTML. So here inside the HTML in the head section I'll just paste the link of the fonts. So I'll just paste it over here. Now the next thing we will do is we will get the link of the Swiper.js library. So if you go back to our design and if you scroll down, here we can see for the testimonials we have this slider, and for that we are using a library called Swiper.js. So it makes it easier for us to design this type of slider. Here we can click on these buttons and also drag to go to the next and the previous slides. So let's search for Swiper.js. So you can simply Google for Swiper.js and you'll find this website, swiperjs.com. So let's click on the website, and if you scroll down we have the information about the website. We need to get the link of the CDN. So for that let's click on get started, and if you scroll down we can see that there are various methods of using Swiper.js. We need the CDN links, so let's scroll down, and here we can see use Swiper from CDN. So we had to copy this Swiper bundle min CSS, and let's paste it inside the head section. So let's copy this from here and let's go back to our HTML, and I'll just paste it over here inside the head section. And then we need to copy and paste the link of the JavaScript file. So let's copy this and let's paste it over here. So we'll just paste it just before the main.js script. And that's basically it with the setup of our HTML file. Now let's go to our style.css file and let's create some variables for the colors. So here you have to type :root so that the color variables can be accessed throughout the website. So let's go back to our website and let's see what are the colors we need. So the first color we need is this pink color right here. So we have the color in a lot of places. We have the color over here for these dots, and even for the logo. So for all of these we have this pink color. So let's create the variable for the color. So let's go back to our CSS file, and to create a variable you have to type ---- and the name of the variable. Let's name it primary color, and then you have to set the value over here. So for the color we have a hex value of FF7474. So this is gonna be our first color. Let's go back, and the next color we need to have is this dark gray color, and then we need to have this dark color over here. So for this color we will name it gray color. So let's go back and let's create a variable called gray color, and for the gray color we have a hex value of 23222A, and then we need to have this dark color right here. So for that let's create a variable called dark color, and for that we have a hex value of 17171A. Now we need to have one more color, which is this light color over here. So we have the color for these buttons over here. So even for this button we have the same color. So let's go back and I will create a variable called light color, and for this color we have a hex value of EBF0FF. So that's it with the CSS color variables for our design. Alright, so that's it with the setup of our project. Alright, this is our project and we have already created the boilerplate code for the HTML5. Now let's start with the markup of our design. So first of all, let's write the HTML for this navigation bar over here. So let's go into the body tag and we'll create a nav element and we'll give it a class of main nav. Now in this we need to have these three elements. We need to have this menu icon, and we need to have this logo, and then we need to have this button. Now we can see these are all images that we're going to use in our design. So I have a folder called images and I'll just copy it inside my project. I will also leave the link of the startup files in the description of this video, so you can go ahead and download all the images and the HTML, JavaScript and CSS files that we see over here. Right, so I have copied this images folder over here and we have all these images over here. So some of them are SVG images and some of them are PNG images. Right, now let's go back to our design, and here we can see we have set a max width for this nav bar. And if you scroll down, we can see that we have the max width for all the sections in our website. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a division specifically for the max width. So let's go back and let's create a division with the class of wrapper. And for the wrapper, we will set a max width in our CSS. Alright, now the first thing we need to have over here is this menu icon. So for that, let's create a division with the class of menu icon. And in that we will have the image. So I'll just type img and press tab. And in the src, I'll just type images / and I have an image called menu icon.svg. So that's it with our menu icon. Now the next thing we need to have is this logo. So for the logo, let's create a division with the class of logo. And here I'll just type the name. And then lastly, we need to have this button. So for the button, we'll just create an anchor tag. And for the href, I'll just type hash for now. You can add the link of any web page over here. And here we'll also give it a class of btn. And this is going to be a dark button. So here we can see we have this dark color for this button. So I'll just type dark over here for the class. And we'll style all these classes in the CSS. But for now, we'll just focus on the HTML. And inside the button, we need to type install app. So I'll just type install app. Right, now let's open this in our browser and let's see how it looks. So I have this extension called live server installed in VS Code. So once you install that, you can just right click over here in the HTML and click on open with live server. And here we can see we have our design displayed over here. We have the icon, the logo and the button. Right, now let's proceed with our HTML. The next thing we need to have is this hero section. Or before that, let's go ahead and add these dots. So let's go back to our HTML, and for the dots, we'll create a division with the class of dots. And in that we will have divisions with class dot for each of the dots. So let's create division with the class of dot. Now we want the first dot to be active at the beginning. So for the first dot, we'll also add a class of active. Now let's go back to our design, and we can see that when we click on any of these dots, we need to go to that section. So for that, we need to change the division to an anchor tag. So let's type A over here, and we'll also add an href. And for the first one, we'll just type hash. Right, now let's duplicate this dot, and for the second dot, we don't need to have this active class. And for the second dot, we need to go to the project section. So what we will do is we'll type hash projects. Now when we create the project section, we will add an ID of projects to that, so that when we click on this anchor tag, we should be taken to that section. Alright, now let's go ahead and add the other dots. So we need to add 1, 2, 3, 4 dots. So I'll just duplicate this. And for the third one, we need to have services, and then we need to have testimonials, skills and contact. So let's add the links over here. The first one is services. And then we need to have testimonials, and then we need to have skills, and then we need to have contact. Right, that's it with the dots. Now let's go ahead and create the hero section. So for that, let's create a header. And in the header, we need to have a wrapper division because we need to have this max width. So let's type wrapper, and in that we need to have two sections. One is for the left, where we have this text and these buttons, and then we have the right section where we have this image and this background shape. So let's create a division with the class of left, and in the left division we need to have an h1 for this text. So I'll just copy this text and let's create an h1 and let's paste it over here. The next thing we need to have is a paragraph, and let's copy this text and let's paste it over here. And then we need to have these two buttons. So for the buttons we'll just create a container division with the class of buttons, and we'll just create an anchor tag for the button, and for the button we'll give it a class of btn, and this is going to be a light button. So I'll just type light over here as the class. And for the text we need to have hire me, and let's duplicate this button. And for the second button we need to have my projects, and this is going to be a dark button. So let's change the class to dark. And here for the link I'll just type hash projects, and here for hire me we can just type hash contact. So we'll be taken to the contact section. Alright, that's it with the left section. Now let's create the right section. So for the right section we will have a division with the class of right, and in that we need to have the image for this background shape. So let's create an img tag, and here in the src I'll just type images / and I have an image called herobg.svg, and we'll also add a class over here so that we can style it in the css. We will give it a class of herobg, and let's duplicate this. And for the second one we need to have the hero image. So I have an image called heroimage.png, and for the class I'll just type hero image. Alright, that's it with the right section. And now here we can create a comment. Now for creating a comment you can just press Ctrl / or Command /, and here I'll just type end of header. And let's go back to our design and let's see how it looks. So here we can see all the elements are displayed over here. Alright, now the next thing we will do is write the HTML for this project section. So let's go back and let's create a section, and we'll give it a class of projects, and we'll also give it an ID of projects so that we can navigate to this section when we click on the dots. Now even for the projects we need to have a max width. So let's create a division with the class of wrapper, and in that we will create a heading. So for the heading we need to type my projects. So let's create an h2 and let's type my projects. Right, now for this gallery we'll create a division with the class of gallery, and in that for each of the projects we'll create a division with the class of project. And in the project we need to have this image and this title. Now for the image we'll create an anchor tag, and here in the href you can just provide the link of your project. I just type hash for now, and in the anchor tag we will have the img tag, and here in the source I just type images / project1.png, and then we'll provide the title over here. So for the title we will have a division with the class of title, and for the first project we have a title of project number 1. So I just type project number 1. Alright, now let's copy this project and we'll paste it 5 more times. Right, for the second project we will have the image of project2.png, and here we'll just type project number 2. And then for the third project we will have project3.png, and here we'll type project number 3. And in the same way we have project4.png and project number 4, and then we have project5.png, project number 5, and then lastly we have project6.png and project number 6. Alright, that's it with the project section. So I'll just create a comment over here. I'll just type end of project section. Alright, now let's go back to our website and let's see whether we have all the elements. So here we can see we have the title and all the projects and the titles displayed over here. Right, now the next section is services. So let's create a section, and we'll give it a class of services and also an ID of services, and we'll create a wrapper division for the max width, and in that we need to have a heading, and here we'll just type services. And for all these services, I'll just create an unordered list. And let's create list items. And for the first one, we have web development. And let's duplicate this 2 more times. The next one is app development. And then we have search engine optimization. Alright, that's it with the services section. So I'll just create a comment, end of services section. Let's go back to our website, and everything's looking alright. Now the next section is the testimonial section. Now for the testimonial section, we're going to use a library called Swiper.js. So we'll not write the HTML for it right now. So I'll just create a section for that. So I'll just type section, and we'll create a section with a class of testimonials and also an ID of testimonials. And we will add a wrapper division for a fixed max width, and I'll just leave it blank. We will write the code for this later. Right here, we'll just create a comment. I'll just type end of testimonials section. Right now, the next section we need to have is my skills section. So let's create a section, and we'll give it a class of skills and also an ID of skills. And first of all, we will create the wrapper division, and in that we need to have the heading. So I'll just type h2, and let's type my skills. And then for each of these logos or icons, we'll create a division with a class of icon container or icons container. And for each of these icons, we'll create a division with a class of icon. And in the icon, we need to have an image and this text. So let's create an img tag, and in the src, I'll just type images / html logo.svg, and let's create a division for the text, and we'll give it a class of skill, and here we'll just type html. Alright, let's copy this icon, and we need to paste it 5 more times. Alright, for the second one, we need to have CSS. So let's type css logo.svg, and here I'll just type CSS. And the next one is JavaScript. So I'll just type JavaScript logo.svg, and here I'll just type JavaScript. And then we need to have React. So here I'll just type React. And for the text, I'll just type React. And then we have Flutter and Figma. So let's type Flutter. And here also we'll just type Flutter. And here we'll type Figma. And here we'll just type Figma. Alright, that's it with the skills section. So let's create a comment. End of skills section. And let's go back to our website. And we have all the logos and everything displayed alright. Right now the next section is the contact section. So let's create a section, and we'll give it a class of contact and an ID of contact. And here also we need to have the wrapper division. And first of all, let's have the h2, and here we need to type contact me. And then we'll create a form, and in the form we will have the input fields. So for the first one, we need to have input of type text, and we'll also add a placeholder. And for the placeholder, we'll just type full name. And let's duplicate this, and the next one is email. So the type will be text, and here for the placeholder, I'll just type email. And then we need to have a text area for this message. So I'll just create a text area over here, and we'll also add a placeholder. And for the placeholder, we'll just type message. And then lastly, we need to have a button with the text send message. So I'll just create a button, and we will give it a class of btn and also light. And here I'll just type send message. Alright, that's it with the contact section. So I'll just create a comment over here. End of contact section. Alright, now the last thing we need to have is this footer. So for that, let's create a footer element. And here also we need to have a max width. So I'll just type wrapper. And in that we need to have the logo. Here I'll just type Darcy. Then we need to have this text. So I'll just type P. We'll just create a paragraph tag. And here I'll just type Darcy. And here we'll just add a copyright symbol. and type 2022, and then we need to have these 3 social media icons. So for that, let's create a division with the class of social, and we'll create anchor tags, and here you can provide the link of your social media pages. And in the anchor tags we will have an img tag, and in the src I'll just type images / facebook-logo.svg, and let's duplicate this 2 more times. Next we need to have Twitter and dribble, so just type Twitter and dribble. Right now let's go back to our website, and everything is looking alright, we don't have any problems. So that's basically it with the HTML of our design. Alright, this is how our website looks right now. We don't have any CSS added. So let's go to our source code, and this is our HTML file. We can see that we have linked our CSS file over here. So let's go to our style.css file, and we have already added these color variables in our previous videos. Alright, let's start by removing all the default margins in the body. So let's type body, and I'll just type margin 0. And now we can see we don't have any default margin in our browser. Alright, now let's go back and let's set the box sizing to border box. So I'll just select all the elements and also the after and before selectors. So I'll just type after and also asterisk : before. And let's set the box sizing to border box. Now this line of code will make sure that we have the correct height and width for our elements. And now if we go back to our website, and if I click on this My Projects link, we can see that we are taken to the My Projects section, but it is instant. We want to have a smooth transition. So for that, let's go back to our CSS, and we will add a scroll behavior to the HTML. So let's type HTML, and let's type scroll behavior and set it to smooth. Now let's go back and let's click on My Projects, and we are smoothly taken to this section right here. Right now the next thing we will do is we will set the max width for the wrapper division. So if you go to our original design, we can see that we have this max width for all the elements. So let's go back, and if you go back to our HTML file, we can see that we have this division with the class of wrapper. So let's style that. So here I'll just type wrapper, and we'll set a max width of 1100 pixels, and we'll also set a padding of 0 for top and bottom and 50 pixels for left and right. And we'll also bring it to the center, so I'll just type margin 0 for top and bottom and auto for left and right. Now we can see we have a max width for all the content. Let's add a background color, and you'll be able to see it correctly. So here we can see this is the max width of our wrapper division. So we have the max width for all the sections. Let's go back and let's remove this background color. Right now the next thing we will do is style this nav bar. So if you go back to our HTML file, we can see that for the nav bar we have this nav element with a class of main nav. So let's style that. I'll just create a comment. I'll just type nav bar. So here I'll just type nav with the class of main nav. First of all, let's set the position to fixed so that it is in the same position even if we scroll down. And we'll set the top position to 0. We'll set the left position to 0 and also the right position to 0. And we'll also set the z index to a higher value so that it is always on the top. And let's add a background color, and let's see whether it is being applied. So here we can see we have this nav bar displayed over here. Right now let's remove this background color, and we'll just change it to white. And we'll also add a box shadow, and we'll set the values to 0, 4 pixels, 40 pixels, RGBA, 0, 0, 0 and 0.2. Right now the next thing we need to do is we need to position all these elements one next to the other. So if we go back to our HTML file, here we can see inside the main nav we have this wrapper, and in the wrapper we have the menu icon, the logo and this button. So for the wrapper division inside the main nav, we have to set the display to flex. So here I'll just type nav.mainNav wrapper, and let's set the display to flex, and we'll also align items to the center. And now we can see we have all these elements one next to the other. Now we will position them one to the left, one to the center and one to the right. So for that we have to type justify content space between. Now we can see we have the correct positioning for all these elements. Now we'll also add some padding for this main nav. So let's go back to our CSS, and here for the main nav let's add a padding, and we'll set a padding of 16 pixels top and bottom and 0 for left and right. Now the next thing we will do is style this logo. So let's go back, and for the logo we have a division with the class of logo. So here I'll just type nav.mainNav logo, and we'll set the font size to 20 pixels and the font weight to 800, and we'll also set the color of the font to the primary color which we had stored over here. So we can simply use this variable. So here I'll just type var primary color, and we also need to set the font family. So what we will do is for the body we will add a font family of railway and sans serif. Alright, that's it with the logo. Now the next thing we will do is style this button. So let's go back to our CSS, and for the button we have a class of btn. So let's style this. So here I'll just type btn, and we will first of all remove this underline. So for that we'll just type text decoration and set it to none, and we'll set the font size of the button to 16 pixels, and we'll set the font weight to 800, and we'll also add a padding of 10 pixels top and bottom and 32 pixels left and right, and we'll also set the display to inline block so that we have the correct margin and padding added to the button. Right now we have two types of buttons over here. We have a light button and a dark button. So for each of the buttons we have different styles. So we will type .btn.dark for the dark button, and for the dark button we need to have a dark background color. So let's type background, and we'll set it to a variable that we created called dark color, and for the color of the text we'll set it to white. And for the light button let's type .btn.light. We will set the background color to a light color, and we'll set the color of the text to black, and here we can see we have the button displayed over here. And the styles are added for these buttons also because we have the same classes over here. Now one more thing we need to do over here is that when we hover over this menu icon we need to change the cursor to a pointer. So let's go back, and for the menu icon we have a division with the class of menu icon. So let's target that. Here I'll just type nav main menu icon, and let's set the cursor to pointer. And now if you hover over this we have the pointer. Right now the next thing we will do is style this hero section. So let's go back to our HTML, and for the hero section we have this header. So first of all let's style this header. So here I'll just create a comment, and here we'll just type hero section. Alright, the first thing we will do is we will set the height of the header to 100 viewport height. So this is the header. So let's target that. I'll just type header, and let's set the height to 100 viewport height, and we'll set the background color to the gray color. So we have already created the variable, so I'll just select this, and we'll also set the overflow to hidden so that anything outside this header will not be displayed. So even if our image extends the height of this header, it will be cropped. Right now let's go back to our browser, and here we can see we have the background color set, and we also have 100 viewport height for the header. Right now the next thing we need to do is we need to position the left and the right divisions one next to the other. So right now it is one below the other. So let's go back to our browser, and if you go to the index.html file, here we can see inside the header we have this wrapper division, and in that we have the left division, and below that we have the right division. So we have to set the display of the wrapper division to flex so that both these elements will be one next to the other. So let's target the wrapper inside the header. So here I'll just type header wrapper, and let's set the display to flex, and we'll also align items to the center, and we'll set the height to 100% of the parent, which is the header. Right now let's go back to our browser, and here we can see we have the left division on the left side, and then we have the right division on the right side. Now we need to set the same width to both these divisions. So let's go back, and here we can see we have the left division and also the right division. So let's target both of those. Here I'll just type header left, and we need to set the flex to 1, and even for the header right we need to set the flex to 1. Now both these divisions will have the same width. Now let's style this heading. So let's go back to our HTML, and here we can see for the heading we have this h1. So let's target that. Here I'll just type header h1, and let's set the font size to 60 pixels, and we'll set the color of the text to white, and we'll also remove all the margins. Right now let's style this paragraph. So here we can see we have this paragraph. So let's type header P, and let's set the color to white, and we'll set the font family to Inter, and we'll set the font size to 18 pixels, and let's set the margin to 8 pixels top and bottom and 0 for left and right, and we'll also add some margin bottom. So let's tap margin bottom, and let's set it to 24 pixels, and we'll also set a line height, and we'll set the line height to 180%. Now let's add some space between these two buttons. So let's target the buttons. Here I'll just tap header BTN, and let's set a margin right of 20 pixels. Alright, that's it with the left division. Now let's style the right division. Now we need to position this image and also this background shape relative to the right division. So for that, let's go to the right division, and we will set the position to relative. And now let's target the images. So here we can see we have this image with the class of hero image. So let's target that. Here I'll just tap header right hero image, and let's set the position to absolute, and we'll set the bottom position to 0, and we'll also set the height of the image to 90%. Alright, now let's target this hero BG. So let's type header right hero BG, and let's set the position to absolute, and we'll set the top position to, let's try 20%. And now we can see that the hero image is not being displayed. So let's check what is the problem. I'll just right click over here and click on inspect, and let's go inside the wrapper and inside the right division, and let's select this hero image, and we can see we have set a height for the hero image. And let's select the right division, and for the right division we don't have any height set. So let's add a height, and let's see whether it fixes the problem. And now we can see when we add the height, we have the image displayed over here. So let's add the height. Let's go back, and let's go to the right division, and let's set the height to 100%, and we'll set the align self to the bottom. So let's tap flex end, because here we can see for the wrapper we have set align items to the center. Now for the right division specifically, we need to set the alignment to the bottom. And now we can see we have the image displayed over here. We have set the height of the image to 90%, but we can see that the height is a lot more than 90%. But the problem is that we have this navbar over here, and we need to subtract the height of the navbar from the right division. So for that, let's use a calc function. So here for the right division, let's set the height to calc 100% minus the height of the navbar. So let's see what is the height of the navbar. Let's right click over here and click on inspect, and let's select the main nav, and we can see that the height is 70.5 pixels. So let's add that over here. I'll just round it to 70 pixels. Right now let's save this, and now we can see we have the correct height for the images. Now first of all we will style the dots. So here you can see we have these dots over here, and when we hover over these dots we have the section names displayed over here. And if I click on any of these dots, for example if I click on testimonials, we are taken to the testimonials section. So let's style these dots first. Let's go to our CSS. Let's scroll down, and let's go to the index.html file, and if we scroll up we can see that we have created this division with the class of dots, and in that we have these anchor tags with classes dot, and for the active dot we have a class of active. So first of all let's style this dots division. So here I'll just type dots, and we'll set the position to fixed so that it will always stay in the same position even if we scroll down, and we'll set the top position to 50%. Now when we set the top position to 50%, it will start from the 50% mark. So we have to move it 50% of itself to the top. So we have to type transform translate y and set it to negative 50%. Alright, now let's style the dot inside this dots division. So here I'll just type dots dot, and we'll set the height of the dot to 10 pixels and the width to 10 pixels. Now we want it to have a round shape, so we have to set the border radius to 50%, and we'll also add a background color. Now if we go back to our original design, we can see that for the active dot we have this primary color, and for all the other dots we have a color with some opacity. So here I'll just type RGBA, and we'll set the values to 255, 116, 116, and for the opacity I'll just type 0.2. Now what we will do is we will set the display of the dots to flex. So here I'll just type display of flex, And now if you go back to our website, here we can see we have all the dots displayed over here. Now we want these dots to be displayed one below the other. So here we have to type flex direction and set it to column. And we'll also add a gap of 16 pixels. And we'll also add some left position. So here I'll just type left. And we'll just set it to 20 pixels. And that looks alright. Now let's style the active dot. So for the active dot, we have a class of active. So here I'll just type dots dot active, and I will set the background color to the variable that we created called primary color. And now we can see for the active dot we have this primary color. Now the next thing we will do is when we hover over this dot, we need to have the name of the section displayed over here. So for that, let's go back to our HTML, and here we will add a data attribute. So here I'll just type data hyphen location. Now you can name this data attribute anything you want. You just have to start with data hyphen, and then you can name this anything you want. And now we need to set a value to this. So let's type equals. Now for the first dot we have a value of home. So I'll just type home over here. Now we need to access this data attribute inside our CSS. So let's go to our CSS file, and here we will access it inside an after selector. So let's type dots dot colon after, and here we need to add a content attribute. And here if you type, let's say 123, here we can see we have 123 displayed over here. Let's change the color and you'll be able to see it better. So here we can see we have 123 displayed over here after every dot. Now we need to display the content inside this data attribute. So for that you have to type attr for attribute, and here you have to type data hyphen location, which we have named over here in the HTML. So now let's save this and let's go back, and here we can see for the first dot we have home displayed over here. Now let's style this. Let's set the background color to a dark color, and we will have a padding of 3 pixels top and bottom and 8 pixels left and right. Now we need to position this after selector relative to this dot. So here for the dot I'll just type position relative, and now here we can type position absolute, and we'll set the top position to 50% so that it starts from the center, and we also have to move it 50% to the top so that it is exactly in the center. So I'll just type translate y negative 50%, and we'll also set the font weight to 800, and let's also set the font size to, let's try 14 pixels, and let's go back to our website, and here we can see we have the section name displayed over here. We also need to have a left position, so here I'll just set the left position to 16 pixels, and I think that looks alright. Now we need to display this only when we hover over this dot. So for that, here you have to type dot colon hover colon after. Now if you hover over this, we can see that the section name is displayed over here. Alright, now let's add the section names for all the other dots. So let's go back to our HTML. For the second dot, we'll type data hyphen location equals, and the second section is projects. So I'll just type projects over here. And for the third one, let's type data hyphen location, and the third one is services, and let's type data hyphen location. And after services, we have testimonials and skills and contact. So let's add that over here, testimonials, and here we'll just type data hyphen location skills and data hyphen location contact. Right, now let's go back to our website and let's hover over these dots, and we can see that all the sections are displayed over here. And let's click on one of these sections, and we can see that we are taken to that section over here. Now we are taken to the sections over here because we have the same ID that we provided over here. So here we can see we have set the href to hash, and for example here we have set it to projects, and if you scroll down, for the project section we have an ID of projects, so that's why it is scrolling down to that section. Right, that's it with the styling of the dots. Now we have some more functionality for the dots. So for example, if you scroll down and if you go to the next section, we have the second dot active over here, and in the same way if you scroll down we have the next dot active over here. Now for this we need to use some JavaScript, so we will do that later. Right, now let's style the menu items. So if I click on this menu icon, we can see that we have these menu items displayed over here. So let's style this design. So let's go back to our HTML file, and here after the nav, let's create a division, and we will give it a class of nav items, and in that we need to have the close icon and also the list of all the menu items. So first of all, let's add the close icon. So I'll just create a division with the class of close icon, and in that we will have the image of the close icon. So let's type img, and in the src I'll just type images / and I have an image called close icon.svg. Right now let's add the menu items. So for that we'll just use an unordered list, and in that we have list items, and in that we will have anchor tags, and for the first one we'll just type home, and let's copy this list item, and we'll paste it 5 more times, and for the second one let's type projects, and here in the href I'll just type #projects, and for the third one let's type services, and here I'll just type #services, and for the third one we have testimonials, and here I'll just type #testimonials, and then we have skills. Here also I'll just type skills, and lastly we have contact me, and here I'll just type contact. And while we are here in the HTML, let's also add the down arrow over here. So here we can see we have this down arrow, so let's add that as well. So for that let's scroll down and go inside the header. So this is the header. So here just after this division, just before the header ends, let's add the down arrow. So let's create an anchor tag, and for the down arrow we're going to set this second section, which is the project section. So when we click on this down arrow we need to go to the project section. So here I'll just type #projects, and in the anchor tag let's add the image. So let's type img, and let's type images / and it is called down icon.svg. And let's also add a class over here for the anchor tag. Let's type down arrow so that we can style it in the CSS. Right now let's go to our CSS file, and first of all let's style the down arrow. Right, so here I'll just type header down arrow, and let's set the position to absolute, and we'll position this relative to the header. So if you go to the header, here we have to set the position to relative, so let's type position relative. Right now here in the down arrow, let's set the left position to 50% so that it is in the center. Now when we add a left position of 50%, it will start from the center, so we have to move it left 50%. So let's type transform translate x -50%. Let's set the bottom position to 10 pixels, and we'll also set the opacity to 0.4, and let's go back to our design, and here we can see we have the down arrow, and if I click on that we are taken to the project section. Right, that's it with the styling of the down arrow. Now let's style these menu items. Alright, so let's go back to our source code, and let's go to the HTML file, and we will display the menu items only when we have the active class. So here for now let's add the active class over here so that we can style it. Now when we click on the menu icon, we're going to add the active class to this nav items, and when we click on the close icon we're going to remove the active class. For now let's manually add the active class over here. Right, so let's go to our style.css file, and let's add a comment navigation menu items. So we have a class name of nav items, so let's type nav items, and by default we will set the opacity to 0 and also the pointer events to none so that nobody can click on any of the links. And when we have the active class we will set the opacity to 1 and the pointer events to auto. So let's type nav items active and set the opacity to 1 and pointer events to auto. And here we'll also add transition of all to 400 milliseconds ease so that we have a smooth animation. Alright, now let's set the position to fixed, and we'll set the top position to 0 and the left position to 0, and we'll set the height to 100 viewport height and the width to 100%, and we'll also set a background color of black, and we also need to set a z index of a higher value, so let's type 400. And now we can see we have the menu items displayed over here. We'll also bring it to the center. So for that let's set the display to flex, align items to the center, and justify content to the center. And now we can see everything is in the center. Right now let's position this close icon over here on the top left. So for the close icon, we have a division with the class of close. So here we can see we have this close icon. So here I'll just tap nav items, close icon, and let's set the position to fixed. Let's set the top position to 22 pixels. We need to set the width to 100%, and we'll also set the max width to 1100 pixels so that we have this menu icon and the close icon in the same position. Right now let's add a background color and let's see how it is being styled. So here we can see we have the close icon division. Now let's style the image. So in the close icon division we have this img tag. So here I'll just tap nav items, close icon, img, and let's set the height and the width to 22 pixels. And since we have a padding of 0.50 pixels for the wrapper, so here we can see for the wrapper we have a padding of 0.50 pixels. So we have to add the same padding over here as well so that the close icon is in the correct position. So let's type padding 0.50 pixels. Right now let's remove this background color. Let's also set the cursor to pointer when we hover over this. So here I'll just type cursor pointer. Right now let's style these menu items. So for the menu items we have an unordered list. So let's style that. Here I'll just tap nav items, ul, and first of all let's remove the padding that comes by default with uls, and we'll also remove the bullets by tapping list style and set it to none, and we'll also text align it to the center. Right now let's style these anchor tags. So let's go back, and here I'll just type nav items, ul-lia, and first of all let's remove the underlines. So let's tap text decoration to none, and we'll set the color of the text to white, and let's set the font size to 20 pixels and text transform to uppercase, and we'll also add some margin between these anchor tags. So let's type margin of 8 pixels top and bottom and 0 for left and right. And right now the margin is not being added because the anchor tags are inline elements by default, so we have to set it to display of inline block. Now we can see we have the margin. Now when we hover over this we need to set the font weight to bold. So let's tap nav items, ul-lia :hover, and font weight let's set it to 800. Right now we can see when we hover over this we have the font weight set to 800. Right, so that's it with the styling of the nav items. Now if you go back to our HTML and if I remove the active class from the nav items, the menu items are not displayed over here, and if we add the active class, it is being displayed over here. Now we will add and remove the active class using JavaScript, and we also need to add animation for the menu items. So if I click on this menu icon, we can see we have this animation. Now even for the animation we will use some JavaScript, so we will do that later. Now here we don't have the dots displayed, so if you scroll down we can see that the dots are displayed over here. So we need to set a z index for the dots. So let's go back to our CSS and let's go to the dots. So here for the dots I just type z index and I'll just set it to 200, and now we can see the dots are displayed over here. So everything is working alright. Now in this video we will add the design of this my project section. So here we can see if you scroll down, we have already written the HTML of the my project section. In this video we will add the CSS. So let's get started. Right here I'm in the CSS of our design. So let's create a comment and I'll just type sections. So the first thing we will do is style this heading. Now we need to add the same styles for all the headings in our sections. So if you scroll down, we can see we have headings for all the sections. And if you go to our original design, here we can see we have this styling for the heading. And if you scroll down, we have the same styling for all the headings. So first of all, let's style all the headings. Let's go back to our CSS and let's type section. And for the heading, we have an h2. So if you scroll down, we can see for the section, we have this h2. So let's type h2. And first of all, let's set the font size to 60 pixels. And we need to set the color of the text to white. Now we also need to change the background color of the sections. So if you go back to the original design, here we can see we have this dark color for this first section, and for the second section we have a gray color, and then we have the dark color, and then we have the gray color. So we need to alternate these two colors in the sections. So here we'll just type section, and by default we will set the background color to the dark color, and we have already created this variable over here at the top. So we have the dark color over here and also the gray color. Right now what we will do is we'll type section colon nth of type, and here we'll just type even. So this will select all the even sections like the second section, the fourth section, the sixth, and so on. So here we'll just type background, and we'll set the color to gray color. And now let's go back, and here we can see we have this dark color over here for the first section, and then we have a light color for the second section, and we cannot see the difference clearly because we have this gap over here. So first of all, let's style the headings. So here for the headings, we'll first of all remove the margin, and we'll add a margin bottom of 40 pixels, and we'll also text align it to the center, and we'll also type text transform and set it to uppercase. So here we can see we have our heading. Now for all the sections in general, we will have some padding. So let's go back, and here for the section, let's type padding, and let's set the padding to 140 pixels for top and 0 for right, 100 pixels for the bottom and 0 for left. So now we have the padding for the sections. Right now the next thing we need to do is we need to add the same text over here at the top. So here we can see we have this text written over here. So for that we will use a before selector. So here I'll just type section h2 colon colon before. Now here we need to add a content property, and for example if I just type 123, we can see 123 is being displayed over here before the heading. Now we want this to be positioned relative to this heading. So for this h2 I'll just type position relative, and here we need to type position absolute. And now here instead of typing 123 we need to add the same text. So for that let's go back to our HTML, and we will use a data attribute for that. So for the first h2 I'll just type data hyphen title, and we'll set it equal to my projects, and we'll do the same for all the other headings. So for the second heading we will type data hyphen title services, and then we have the testimonials section. We don't have a heading in that. And then we have the skills section. So here let's type data hyphen title my skills, and then we have the contact section. So here let's type data hyphen title contact me. Alright, that's it with the headings of the sections. Now let's go back to our CSS, and here instead of 123 let's type attr for attribute, and here we'll just type data hyphen title. Now let's position this correctly. So let's set the top position to -60 pixels, and let's set the left position to 50%, and we also need to type transform translate x and -50% to bring it exactly to the center, and we'll set the font size to 100 pixels, and we'll set the font weight to 100, and we'll also set the color of the text to RGBA 255, 255, 255, and for the opacity I'll just type 0.1. And now we can see that the text is displayed in two different lines. So for that you have to type white space and set it to no wrap. And now we can see we have the correct styling for the heading. And if you scroll down, we have the styling for all the headings. So that's it with the styling of the heading. Now let's style this gallery. So let's go back to our CSS, and let's create a comment. Let's type my project section, and let's go back to our HTML, and for the project section we have this division with the class of gallery. So let's style that. Here I'll just type .gallery, and we'll set the display to grid, and now we need to have 3 columns. So let's type grid template columns, and let's set it to 1fr 1fr 1fr. So this will make sure that it will have 3 columns with the same width, and we'll also set a gap of 36 pixels. And let's go back, and here we can see we have all the images displayed over here in 3 columns. Right now for all the images, let's set the width and the height to 100%. So let's type gallery img, and let's type width of 100% and height of 100%, and we'll also type object fit to cover so that it has the correct aspect ratio. Alright, now the next thing we need to do is when we hover over these images, we want to display the title, and we also want to increase the size of the image. So let's do that. Let's go back to our CSS, and here we'll just type gallery img:hover, and let's type transform scale, and let's set the scale to 1.2, and we'll also add smooth transition. So here I'll just type transition, and we'll set it to all 400 milliseconds ease. And now if we hover over this, we can see that the image increases the scale. Now we want to increase the scale of the image, but we don't want to increase the overall width and height of the project. So here we can see the width and the height of the project remains the same. So for that, let's target the parent division. So here we can see we have this project division over here, and in that we have the image. So here I'll just type gallery project, and we'll set the overflow to hidden. And now let's go back, and now if you hover over this, we can see that the overall height and width stays the same. Alright, now the next thing we will style is the title. So let's go back, and if you go back to our HTML file, here we can see we have this division with the class of title. So let's go back to our CSS, and here we'll just type gallery project title, and now we need to position this title relative to the project. So here for the project, I'll just type position relative, and here for the title, I'll just type position absolute, and let's set the bottom position to 2 pixels, and we'll also set the left position to 2 pixels and the right position to 2 pixels, and we'll also set a padding of 10 pixels top and bottom and 24 pixels left and right. We'll set the font size to 18 pixels, and we'll set the font weight to 800, and let's set the background color to the dark color, and let's set the color of the text to white. Right now we don't want to display this title at the beginning, we just want to display it when we hover over this image. So in the beginning, we'll just set the transform translate Y to 50 pixels, and we'll also add a smooth transition. So I'll just type transition, and all to 400 milliseconds ease. And now here we'll just type gallery project :hover, and here we'll just type title, and we'll set the transform translate Y to 0 pixels. Right now let's go back to our website, and now let's hover over this project, and here we can see we have the title displayed. So everything is working alright. Alright, so that's basically it with the design of the My Project section. Right now if you go to the original design, we can see that for the services section we have these services displayed over here, and we also have this hover effect. So let's style these, and if you go back to our HTML, and let's scroll down, and here we can see for the services section we have this UL. So let's style this. So here in our CSS file, let's create a comment. I'll just type services, and let's type .services UL, because we can see for the services section we have this class of services. And first of all, let's remove the bullets. So let's type list style and set it to none, and we'll also remove the default padding. Right now let's style the list items inside the UL. So let's type services ULLI, and first of all let's set the color of the text to white, and let's set the font size to 30 pixels, and let's bring it to the center. So let's type text align center. We'll also set the text transform to uppercase. So I'll just type text transform uppercase, and let's add some margin. So let's type margin, and let's set it to 16 pixels top and bottom and 0 for left and right. Right now let's add the dot that we see on the right when we hover over these services. So for that we will use an after selector. So here I'll just type services ULLI : after, and let's set the content to blank, and we need to position this after selector relative to this list item. So here we have to type position relative, and here we'll just type position absolute, and let's set the height to 8 pixels and the width to 8 pixels, and we need to have a round shape. So let's type border radius and set it to 50%, and we'll also set the background color to red, and here we can see we have the dot displayed over here. Now let's set a right position. So here I just type right, and let's set it to negative 20 pixels. Right now we can see that these dots are at the right. We want it to be just after these list items. So for that, let's go back to the UL and let's set the display to flex, and we'll set the flex direction to column, and we'll also align items to the center. And now we can see we have the correct positioning. We'll also bring this dot to the center. So for that, here in the after selector, let's type top of 50% and transform translate Y to negative 50%. Right now we need to display this only when we hover over these list items. So here I'll just set the opacity to 0, and here we'll just type services ul li hover after, and let's set the opacity to 1. And now we can see when we hover over this, we have the dot displayed. Now the next thing we will style is the My Skills section. So let's go back over here and let's create a comment. I'll just type skills, and let's go back to our index.html file, and here we can see for the skills section we have this division with the class of icons container. So let's style this. Here I'll just type skills icons container, and let's set the display to grid, and we will type grid template columns, and we will set it to 1fr 1fr 1fr. So this will have 3 columns with the same width, and now we can see we have these 3 columns over here. Now let's give it a max width. So here I'll just type max width, and let's set it to 800 pixels, and let's also add a background color so that we can see it clearly. And we'll also bring this to the center, so let's type margin, and for top and bottom I'll just type 60 pixels and auto for left and right. Right now let's style these icons. So if you go to the index.html file, here we can see we have this division with the class of icon, and in that we have the image and the skill name. So here let's type skills icons container icon, and let's set the display to flex and flex direction to column, and we'll also align items to the center and justify content to the center. Right now we'll also have some gap between these icons. So here in the icons container, let's type gap, and let's set it to 100 pixels, and let's also remove the background color. Right now let's style these images. So let's type skills icons container img, and let's set the height to 100 pixels. Right now let's style the skill text. So for that we have a division with the class of skill. So let's type skills icons container icon skill, and let's set the color of the text to white, and we'll set the font size to 20 pixels, and we will set a margin top of 24 pixels, and we'll also set the pointer events to none so that it is not interactable. And now we can see we have the skills displayed over here. But if you go back to the original design, we can see that the skills are not displayed over here by default. If you hover over these, we have the skills displayed. So for that, let's go back and we will set the opacity to 0 by default, and we'll also add a transition so that we will have smooth animation. Let's set it to all 400 milliseconds ease, and here we will add a hover effect. So let's type skills icons container icon hover skill, and let's set the opacity back to 1. Right now let's go back to our website, and now if you hover over this, we can see that the skill is displayed over here. So that's basically it with the My Skills section. Now this is our source code. So let's go to the index.html file, and if you scroll down, we can see that we have this section with the class of contact, and in that we have this form, and in the form we have the input fields, the text area, and the button. Now if you go to the original design, we can see that in the contact form we have all the input fields one below the other. So for that, let's target this form, and we will set the display to flex. So let's go over here to style or CSS file, and let's create a comment. I'll just type contact me, and we have a class called contact, and in that we have the form. So let's type form, and let's set the display to flex, and we'll set the flex direction to column, and we'll also have a gap of 8 pixels. And now we can see we have all these input fields one below the other. Right now let's style these input fields and this text area. So let's go back, and here we'll just type contact form input, and we have a type of text. So I'll just type text over here, and we'll also target the text area. So let's type contact form text area, and let's set a padding of 8 pixels top and bottom and 32 pixels left and right, and we'll set the font size to 18 pixels, and we'll also set the font family to Inter and sans serif. Right now, if we go back, we can see that we have the correct styling for the input fields and the text area. Now here we can see for the text area, we have this option to resize the text area. So if I drag over here, we are able to resize the text area. Now we don't need to have this option right here. So let's go back to our CSS and let's target the text area. So I'll just type contact form text area, and we'll type resize and set it to none. Now if we go back, we can see that we don't have the option of resizing the text area. And now if we click on any of these input fields or text area, we can see that we have this blue outline. So let's remove that. Let's go back to our CSS and let's type contact form input colon focus and contact form text area colon focus. So these styles will be added when we focus on any of these elements. So let's type outline and let's set it to none. And now if we go back and if we click on any of these input fields or text area, we can see that we don't have the outline displayed. Right now, the last thing we need to do in this contact form is to align this button to the right. So in our original design, we can see that we have this button on the right. So let's go back and let's target the button. So for the button, we have this button with the class of btn. So here let's type contact form btn, and let's type align self, and we'll set it to flex end, which will align it to the right. And we'll also remove the border. So I'll just type border none. And now we can see we have the correct styling for the button. Now let's style this footer. So let's create a comment over here. I'll just type footer. Now if you go to the index.html file and if you scroll down, we can see that we have this footer element. So let's target that. Here I'll just type footer. And if you go back to the original design, we can see that for the footer we have this gray color. So let's type background and let's set it to var gray color. And we'll also add a padding of 16 pixels top and bottom and 0 for left and right. And here we can see we have the background color added. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to place all these elements one next to the other. So right now we have all the elements one below the other. So if we go back to our index.html file, we can see inside the footer we have this division with the class of wrapper, and inside the wrapper we have the logo, the copyright information, and the social media icons. So let's target this wrapper inside the footer. So here I'll just type footer wrapper, and let's set the display to flex and align items to the center, and let's type justify content and set it to space between. And now we can see we have all the elements in the correct position. We have the logo over here, we have the copyright information over here, and then we have the social media icons. Let's also change the color of the text. So let's set the color of the text to white. Right now let's style this logo. So for the logo we have a division with the class of logo. So here I'll just type footer logo, and let's set the font size to 30 pixels, and we'll set the font weight to 800, and we'll also set the color of the text to var primary color. And now let's go back, and here we can see we have the styling for the logo. Right now let's have some space between these social media icons. So here in the index.html file we can see that we have the anchor tags, and in the anchor tags we have the images. So let's select these anchor tags inside the social division. So here I'll just type footer social A, and let's set a margin of 0 for top and bottom and 32 pixels left and right. And now we can see we have this spacing between these anchor tags. Now we don't want to have margin at the right of the last element. So here I'll just type footer social A colon last child, and we'll set the margin right to 0. Right now the last thing we need to do is decrease the height of these images. So here I'll just type footer social img, and let's set the height to 40 pixels, and that looks alright. So that's basically it with the styling of the contact me section and the footer. Now if you go back to the original design, we can see that we have a slider for the testimonial. So if we click and drag over here, we can go to the next and the previous testimonials. And we also have these buttons for next and previous testimonials. Now for this we are using a library called Swiper.js. So if you go back to our source code and if you go to the HTML file, we can see that we have already linked the Swiper.js CSS file, and if you scroll down, we also have the link of the Swiper.js JavaScript file. Now if you scroll up, and here we can see we have the Testimonials section, and we have created this wrapper division over here. So in that we will add the code for the testimonial slider. So for that, let's go to the Swiper.js official website. You can just Google for Swiper.js and you will find this website called swiperjs.com. And here let's click on Get Started. And if you scroll down, we can see that we have the guide for getting started. Now we have already linked these files in our HTML file. So let's scroll down. And here we can see this is the code that we need to add in our HTML. And we need to replace all these slide 1, slide 2, slide 3 text with our testimonials. So let's copy this code from here. And let's go back to our HTML file. And I'll just paste it over here inside the wrapper division. Now let's go back, and if you scroll down, we need to set the height and the width of the swiper division in our CSS. So we will do that as well. But before that, let's copy this JavaScript. So let's copy all of this and let's paste it inside our JavaScript file. So here we can see we have the main.js file, and we have already linked the JavaScript file over here. So let's paste the code over here. Now we don't need to have this scroll bar, so let's delete this. Alright, now let's go to our index.html file and let's make changes to the slides. So here we can see we have slide 1, slide 2 and slide 3. So here we have to add the code of our testimonials. So let's delete this from here. Now let's go back to the original design, and first of all we need to have this image. So let's create an img tag, and in the src I'll just type images / and I have this image called testimonial1.png. And the next thing we need to add is this text. So let's create a paragraph tag, and here I'll just add the text. So here I have added the text. Now the next thing we need to add is the name. So for that, let's create a division with a class of name, and let's add the name over here. And we also need to add the image of this quote icon. So for that, let's add the image over here. I'll just create an img tag, and I'll just type images / and I have this image called quote icon.png. Alright, so that's it with the first slide. So let's copy this and let's paste it down here for the second slide. And I'll just change some things over here. I'll just change the image to testimonial2.png, and you can even change the text over here. I'll just leave it as it is. And for the second one, we have a different name. So I'll just add this name over here. And let's copy and paste it over here as well for the slide 3. And you can add as many slides as you want over here. So here I'll just type testimonial3.png, and I'll just leave the text as it is. And for the name, we need to have this name right here. Alright, so that's it with the HTML of our slides. Now let's go back to our website, and this is how it looks right now. Now let's add some CSS to make it look good. So let's go to our style.css file, and let's create a comment over here, and I'll just type testimonials section. And if you go back to the index.html file, here we can see we have this division with the class of swiper. So let's target this. Here I'll just type swiper, and let's set the width to 100% of the parent. Now let's go back to our website, and I think we have some problems in our code. So let's go to the main.js file, and here we need to change the direction to horizontal. Right now it is set to vertical, so I'll just type horizontal over here. And now let's go back, and now we can see we have the option of going to the next testimonials, and everything is working alright. Now let's style these elements. So let's go back and let's go to the style.css file. And first of all, let's text align everything to the center. So if you go back to the index.html file, and here we can see we have this division with the class of swiper slide. So let's target that. Here I'll just type testimonials swiper slide, and let's set the text align to center, and we'll also add a padding of 0 pixels top and 60 pixels right and 60 pixels bottom and 60 pixels left. And now we can see everything is aligned to the center. Now the next thing we will style is this quote icon right here. Now we will position this relative to the swiper slide. So here I'll just tap position relative and let's target the quote icon. So if we go back to the index.html file, here we can see we have the img tag. Let's also add a class. So for the quote icon, I'll just add a class of quote icon. And for the profile image, I'll just create a class called profile image. And let's add these classes to the other slides as well. So here I'll just tap class quote icon and here class profile image. We will do the same over here. Right now let's go back and let's target the quote icon. So I'll just tap testimonials, swiper slide, quote icon, and let's set the position to absolute, and we'll set the top position to 90 pixels and left position to 50 pixels. So here we can see it is positioned correctly. Now let's style this profile image. So let's tap testimonials, swiper slide, profile image, and let's set the border radius to 50% so that we have a round shape, and we'll set the height to 150 pixels and the width to 150 pixels. Right now let's style the paragraph. So let's tap testimonials, swiper slide, P, and let's set the font family to Inter and sans serif, and let's set the color of the text to white, and we'll set the font size to 18 pixels, and we will set the line height to 180%. Right now if we go back, we can see that we have the paragraph styled, but we want it to be on top of this quote icon. So let's add a z index over here. Let's set it to 200, and we still don't have the z index added because for the quote icon we have a position set. So we need to add some position over here for the paragraph. So here just a position of relative, and now we can see that it is styled correctly. Now let's style the name. So for the name we have a division with a class of name. So here I'll just type testimonials, swiper slide, name, and let's set the font size to 30 pixels, and let's set the text transform to uppercase, and we'll set the font weight to 800, and we'll set the color of the text to white, and let's also add a margin top of 40 pixels. And now we can see we have the name styled. Right now the last thing we need to do is change the color of these next and previous buttons and also these dots over here. So if you right click over here and click on inspect, and if you scroll down and take a look at the CSS, here we can see for the color we have a variable called swiper theme color. And even if you take a look at these dots, so let's right click over here and click on inspect. Let's go into this division and let's click on one of these bullets, and if we scroll down, we can see that the background color is set to swiper theme color. And if we scroll down even more, we can see that we have our root colors that we added. And if we scroll down, we can see that we have this swiper theme color set to this blue color right here. So this is already set by Swiper.js. Now we need to change this to our own color. So let's copy this and let's go back to our CSS and let's scroll up and let's paste the variable over here. And I'll just copy this same color code from here, from the primary color, and set it over here. Right now let's go back to our website, and now we can see we have the correct color for these buttons and everything is working alright. Now here we can see for the inactive dots we don't have the correct color. So let's right click over here and go to inspect, and let's scroll down, and we have this different variable set over here for the background. So I'll just copy this class from here, and let's go back to our CSS, and I'll just add the selector over here, and let's set the background color over here, and I'll just set it to var primary color. And now we can see we have the correct colors for all the dots. So that's it with the testimonial section of our website. Now in this video we will add some JavaScript so that we have the functionality for this menu button. So if you go back to the original design, here we can see when we click on this menu button, we have the menu items displayed over here, and if I click on this close button, it disappears. And we also have an animation for all the menu items when it appears on the screen. So we're going to use some JavaScript to add the animation as well. And the next thing we need to do in this video is change the active state of these dots. So if you scroll down and go to the My Project section, the second dot should be active over here. And in the same way, we have the dots for the active section active over here. So this is what we're going to do in this video. Let's get started. Right here I'm in the source code of our website. So let's go to the index.html file, and if we scroll up, we can see we have the HTML for the menu items. So here we can see we have this division with the class of menu icon. So this is the menu icon that we see over here. So we need to access that in our JavaScript to add the functionality. Now when we click on this menu icon, we want to display this nav items division. So if you go to our CSS file and if you scroll up, here we can see for the nav items we also have added a class of active. So when we have the active class, we are displaying the nav items, and when we don't have the active class, we are just setting the opacity to 0. So let's do that using JavaScript. So we need to reference the menu icon and the nav items. So let's go to our main.js file, and here let's type const menu icon equals document.querySelector menu icon, and we'll also reference the nav items. So let's type const nav items equals document.querySelector nav items. Now let's add an event listener to this menu icon. So let's type menu icon dot add event listener, and let's check for the click event, and let's create an arrow function over here. And we need to add the active class to this nav items. So let's type nav items dot class list dot add, and here let's type active. Alright, now let's go back to our website and let's see whether it works. So let's click on this menu icon, and here we can see that all the menu items are displayed over here. Now let's add an event listener to this close icon. So let's go back to our source code. Let's go to the HTML file, and let's see what is the class that we had added for the close button. So here we can see we have this division with the class of close icon. So let's reference that over here. Let's type const close icon equals document.querySelector close icon. And now when we click on this close icon, we need to remove the active class from the nav items. So here let's type close icon dot add event listener, and we'll type click over here, and let's create an arrow function. And here let's type nav items dot class list dot remove, and here we'll just type active. Right, now let's test it out. So let's click on this menu icon, and we have the menu items displayed over here. Let's click on the close icon, and it disappears. So everything is working alright. Now if you click on one of these menu items, let's see what happens. So let's click on the services menu item. When we click on any of these menu items, we want these nav items to disappear. So now if we close this, we can see that we are taken to the services section, but the menu item screen did not hide. So let's do that. So we need to reference all the list items. So if you go back to our HTML file, here we can see inside the nav items we have this UL, and in that we have all these list items. So let's target all these list items. Let's go to our main.js file, and here we'll just type const nav item links equals document.querySelector all, because we have multiple items, and here I'll just type nav items ULLI. So this will select all the list items inside the nav items and add them inside this nav item links. Right, now we need to add event listeners to all the list items inside this constant. So for that, let's type nav item links, and we need to loop through all the list items. So for that, we will use a for each loop. So I'll just type dot for each, and we need to provide a variable name for each of the list items. So I'll just name it I, and let's create an arrow function. Now here you have to type I, which is the list item, dot add event listener, and here we will type click, and let's create an arrow function over here, and here let's type nav items dot class list dot remove active. Now what we are doing over here is that we are looping through each of the list items inside the nav item links, and we are adding event listeners to each of the list items, and when we click on any of the list items, we are just removing the active class from the nav items. Alright, now let's go back and let's test it out. Let's click on this menu icon, and now let's click on one of these list items. So let's click on testimonials, and we can see that the nav items disappears. Now the next thing we will do is we will add a slightly different styling for this nav bar when we scroll down. So if you go back to our original design, and if we scroll down, we can see that when we scroll down past some pixels, the height of this nav bar changes. So let's do that. So for that, let's go back to our JavaScript file, and here we will add an event listener to the window element. So let's tap window.add event listener, and now for the event we need to type scroll, because we are checking whether the user scrolls. So let's create an arrow function over here. Now let's create a variable to know how many pixels we have scrolled down. So let's type let window top equals window.scroll y. So this will give us the pixel amount of how much we have scrolled. Now let's use this in an if condition. So let's type if window top is greater than, let's say, 100. So if you scroll down past 100 pixels, we will add a different styling to the nav bar. So let's go back to our style.css file, and if you scroll up, here we can see for the main nav we have a padding of 16 pixels top and bottom and 0 for left and right. Now what we will do is when we scroll down past 100 pixels, we will set the padding to 8 pixels and 0. So we can do that by creating a class over here itself, but since we are just changing the padding, I will just do it in the JavaScript. So let's go to our main.js file, and first of all we need to select this element. So for that, let's create a constant, and let's name it main nav equals document.querySelector, and here just type nav.mainNav. Alright, now here we'll just type main nav.style.padding equals, and we'll just set it to 8 pixels and 0, and we'll also add an else over here so that it should go back to the original padding. So I'll just type else main nav.style.padding equals, and the original padding was 16 pixels and 0, and we'll also add a smooth transition for that. So let's go back to our style.css file, and here I'll just type transition, and I'll just set it to all 400 milliseconds is. Right, now let's go back, and now if we scroll down, we can see that we have a different styling for the nav bar when we scroll down past 100 pixels. Alright, now the last thing we need to do is change the active class for these dots. So when we scroll down and when we go to the My Projects section, the second dot should have the active class. Now what we're going to do over here is that we're going to select each of the sections, and we're going to calculate the height of the sections, and then we're going to see how many pixels we have scrolled down from the top, and we're going to also take the position of the section from the top, and we're going to add a basic if condition, and then we will apply the active class to the relevant dots. So let's go back to our main.js file, and the first thing we need to do is select all the sections. So let's create a constant, and I'll just type sections equals document.querySelector all, and here just type section. So this will select all the sections and add it inside this sections constant. Right, now let's go inside the event listener of the window where we are checking for the scroll event, and here first of all let's loop through all the sections. So let's type sections dot for each, and you can add a variable name for each of the sections. I'll just call it section, and let's create an arrow function over here. Right, the first thing we will do is we will calculate the offset of the section. So it will give us the position of the section from the top. So let's type let offset equals, and here just type section dot offset top, and the next thing we will do is we will get the height of the section. So let's type let height equals section dot offset height, and the last thing we need to do is we need to get the ID of the section. So if you go back to our index.html file, we can see for each of the sections we have an ID. So let's get the ID of each of the sections. We're going to use the IDs to correctly select the correct dots. So here we can see for the dots we have anchor tags with an href with the ID. So let's go back to our main.js file, and here let's type let id equals section dot get attribute, and we'll get the id. Right now let's add an if condition. So let's type if window top, which is how much we have scrolled from the top, so this is the value, and here we will check whether it is greater than or equal to the offset. And we also need to check for one more condition, so let's add an and over here, and here we'll just type window top is less than offset plus the height. Now this if condition will tell us which section is active right now. Now we may need to alter the offset and the height a little bit for it to work correctly, but first of all let's check whether it is working. So here I'll just create a variable called current dot equals, and here we will select a dot with the id that we get from this variable right here. So let's type document dot query selector, and here we need to type dots, because if we go to the HTML file, here we can see we have this division with the class of dots, and in that we have the anchor tag with this id. So here we'll just type a for the anchor tag, and here we will add square brackets for the attribute, and here let's type href equals, and here we need to add this variable name id. So what we will do is we will use JavaScript template literals. So for that let's add a backtick over here and a backtick at the end instead of the double quotes. And now here we can type the variable name. So first of all we need to type hash, because here we can see it says hash. So let's type equals double quotes hash, and then we will add the variable name. So for that let's type dollar symbol, and in curly braces let's type id, and then here we will add the ending double quotes. Right now let's check whether the current dot has the correct value. So I'll just console log it over here. So let's type console.log current dot, and let's go back to our website and let's open the inspect tool, and let's go to the console, and right now we can see that it displays the projects dot. So let's scroll down even more, and here we can see we have the projects dot. Let's scroll down, and now we can see it displays the services dot, and then we have the testimonials dot. If we scroll up, we have the services dot. So it is working alright. Now we need to alter the values a little bit of the offset and the height. So now we can see when we are still here, the services dot is displayed over here. So for that let's go back to our JavaScript file, and here I'll just add -200, and even for the height I'll just type -200. And now let's go back and let's see. Let's scroll down, and here we have the projects dot, and now we have the services dot, and here we have the projects dot, and here we have the testimonials, and if we scroll up, here we have the services. So I think the values are displayed correctly. Now the next thing we need to do is simply add the active class to the correct dots. So let's go back to our JavaScript, and let's delete this line of code, and here I'll just type current dot class list dot add, and here we'll just type active. So if we go back to our HTML file, here we can see for the active dot we have a class of active, and we'll also add a smooth transition. So let's go back to our style.css file, and let's go to the dots. So here for the dot I'll just type transition all 400 milliseconds is, and now let's go back to our website and let's scroll down, and now we can see that the my projects dot is active. Now when we have this dot active, we need to remove the active class from the previous dot. So for that we'll just create a function. So here I'll just create a function. I'll just name it remove active class, and here I'll just loop through all the dots. So let's reference the dots over here. So I'll just type const dots equals document dot query selector all dots dot. So this will store all the dot anchor tags inside the dots constant, and here I'll just remove all the active classes. So let's type dots dot for each, and for each of the dot I'll just call it dot, and let's create an arrow function over here, and here just type dot class list dot remove active, and now we need to call this class before adding the active class. So here I'll just type remove active classes. Right now let's go back to our website and let's scroll down, and now we can see that the my projects dot is active. Let's scroll down and we have the services.active. Let's scroll down, we have the testimonials.active. Let's scroll down and then we have the my skills, and then we have contact me. So everything is working alright. Now if you scroll up, we can see that the first dot is not being active because this is not a section. So what we will do is here we will add an else if. So I'll just type else if, and here I'll just type window top is less than 300, and here I'll just type remove active class, and I'll just add the active class to the first dot. So I'll just type dots 0 for the first dot, class list dot add active. Right, now let's go back and let's see whether everything works alright. So let's scroll down and we are in the my project section. Let's scroll up and here we have the active class added to the home. So everything is working alright. Now the last thing we need to do is add the animation for these menu items. So in our original website we can see that we have this animation right here. So let's do that. Let's go back to our CSS and let's go to the CSS of the menu items. So it is right here, nav items ULLI. Now what we will do is we will add some properties to the list items. So let's tap nav items ULLI, and by default we will set the opacity to 0, and we'll also tap transform translate X and set it to negative 12 pixels, and we'll also tap transition of all to 1000 milliseconds ease. And when we add the active class to the nav items, we will set all these properties to default. So let's tap nav items dot active ULLI, and let's set the opacity back to 1 and transform translate X to 0. Now if you go back to our website and if I click on this menu icon, we can see that we have this animation for the menu items. Now we need to add different delays for each of the menu items. So we will do that using JavaScript. Let's go back to our main.js file. So here we have already referenced the list items. So here we can see nav item links, and it contains all the list items. So here let's access all the list items. So let's tap nav item links dot for each, and for each of the list items I'll just call it li, and let's create an arrow function. Now what we need to do over here is that we need to add different transition delays to each of the list items. So for that we also need to access the index. So here I'll just tap comma I for the index. So the first value is the list item, the second variable is the index. You can name these variables anything you want. Right now here I'll just tap li dot style dot transition delay equals, and here I'll just use backticks, and let's tap dollar symbol and curly braces, and in here I'll just type I for the index multiplied by 150, and outside this I'll just tap milliseconds. So what we are doing over here is that we are adding transition delay of I times 150, which is for the first list item we have an index of 0. So 0 times 150 milliseconds is 0, and then we have the next list item with an index of 1. So it will be 1 times 150, which is 150, and then we have the next list item with an index of 2. So this value will be 2 times 150, which is 300 milliseconds. So in this way we have different transition delay for each of the list items. Now let's go back to our website and let's click on this menu icon, and we can see we have this animation for all the list items. So everything is working alright. Now in this video we will make this website responsive. So if you go to the original design and if I decrease the width of the browser window, here we can see this is how it will look on a device with this width. So this screen is basically for devices like tablets, and if you scroll down we can see that there are 2 projects in a row, and in our desktop version we had 3 projects in a row. And if you scroll down we have smaller font size for this text, and for the footer we have a different layout. So this is how it will look on a tablet, and let's decrease the width even more. Now this is how it will look on a smartphone. So if you scroll down we have just 1 project in a row. So this is what we're gonna do in this video. Let's get started. Alright, so here I'm in the CSS of our website. So let's scroll down and let's create a comment. So here let's type media queries, And let's create a media query. So let's tap at media, and we'll set a max width of 740 pixels. So whenever the screen width is less than 740 pixels, whatever styles we have inside this block will be added to our website. Now the first thing we will do is decrease the padding of this nav bar. So if you right click over here and click on inspect, and if you take a look at the main nav, and in the main nav we have this wrapper. So for the wrapper we can see that we have a padding of 0.50 pixels. So let's reduce that a little bit. So here I'll just tap nav.mainNav wrapper, and let's set a padding of 0 for top and bottom, and let's try 16 pixels, or let's try 32 pixels, and I think that looks alright. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to place all these items one below the other. So here we can see we have the left section over here on the top, and then we have the image at the bottom. So for that, let's target the wrapper inside the header. So I'll just tap header wrapper, and let's set the flex direction to column. And now we can see that the left division is at the top and the right division is at the bottom. Now let's style the left division. So we have two divisions in our HTML. Here we can see in the header we have this left division and the right division. So let's type header left, and let's set a margin top, and let's set it to 100 pixels. Right now let's change the font size of this heading. So let's type header left, and we have an H1 for the heading. So let's set the font size to 40 pixels. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to bring all these elements to the center of the left division. So here if I just add a background color, here we can see this is the height of the left division. So let's bring all of these elements to the center. So for that I just set the display to flex, and I will set the flex direction to column, and then we'll type justify content center. Alright, let's remove the background color. Right now let's style the right division. So here I'll just type header right, and first of all let's add a background color, and let's see what is the height and the width of the right division. And we can see that it is not being displayed over here, so let's set a width. So let's tap width of 100%, and now we can see we have this image displayed over here. Right now the next thing we will do is bring this image to the center. So for that let's set the display to flex, and we'll set justify content to center. And now we'll also increase the height of this division a little more than the left division. So I'll just set the flex to 1.5. So now the right division has 1.5 times greater height than the left division. Right now let's remove this background color. Right now let's set the height of the image and this background shape. So let's tap header right, and for the image we have a class of hero image, and for the shape we have a class of hero bg. So let's tap hero image, and let's try a height of 100%. Right now let's set the height and the width of the hero bg. So let's tap header right hero bg, and let's try a width of 280 pixels, and let's add a top value, and let's try 20 pixels, or I think 60 pixels. That looks alright. Alright, that's basically it with the hero section. Now let's scroll down, and here we have the my project section. Now for the my project section we will just have two images in a row. If you scroll up, and if you take a look at the CSS, here we can see for the gallery we had set a grid template columns of 1fr, 1fr, 1fr. So that's why we have three columns over here. Now let's scroll down, and here we will just type gallery, and let's set grid template columns to 1fr, 1fr. And now we can see there are two images in a row. So that's it with the my project section. Now for all the headings in our sections we will just decrease the font size. So let's type section h2, and let's set the font size to 40 pixels, and we'll also decrease the font size of this before selector. So let's type section h2 colon before, and we'll set the font size to 80 pixels. Right now let's scroll down, and here we have the services section. Now we will decrease the font size of these list items. So if we go to the HTML file, and if you scroll down, here we can see for the services we have this UL, and in that we have these list items. So let's select that over here. So I'll just type services ULLI, and let's set the font size to 20 pixels, and we'll also decrease the margin. So let's set the margin to 12 pixels top and bottom, and 0 for left and right. Alright, so that's it with the services section. Now let's scroll down, and here we have the testimonials section. So for the testimonials section, we just need to change the position of this quote icon. So let's do that. Now for the quote icon, we have an image with a class of quote icon. So here we can see, here we have this img tag with a class of quote icon. So here I'll just type testimonials swiper slide, and in that we have quote icon, and let's set the height to 100 pixels, and we'll also set the top position to 120 pixels, and that looks alright. Alright, now let's scroll down, and here we have the my skills section. Let's decrease the height of these images. So if we go to the HTML file, and here we can see in our swiper.js we need to remove the scroll bar, so we hadn't removed that. So I'll just remove this division from here. Right now if you go to the skills section, here we can see inside the skills section we have an icons container division, and in that we have all these img tags. So here I'll just type skills icons container img, and let's set the height to 80 pixels. Now in the tablet version we don't want to hide this text, so here we can see in our original design we have the text displayed over here by default. So let's do that. If we scroll up to our CSS for the skills section, here we can see for the skill we have set an opacity of 0. So here I'll just type skills icons container icon skill, and let's set the opacity to 1, and now we have the text displayed over here. Now let's scroll down, and I think we don't have to change anything in the contact section. So let's scroll down, and for the footer we need to change the layout. So we need to set it one below the other. So let's target the wrapper inside the footer. So I'll just have footer wrapper, and let's set the flex direction to column, and we'll also set a gap of 8 pixels. We'll also decrease the gap between these images. So let's type footer social, and in that we have anchor tags. So we'll set a margin of 0 for top and bottom, and 16 pixels left and right. And we'll also decrease the height of the img tag. So I'll just type footer social img, and let's set the height to 30 pixels. Alright, so that's basically it with the tablet version of our website. Now let's make some minor changes to our smartphone version. Right, so here I have decreased the width of the browser. Now for the smartphone version we have these buttons one below the other. So let's do that. Let's create a media query for that. So let's tap at media, and let's set a max width of 600 pixels. And if you go back to our HTML file, and if we scroll up and go to the header, here we can see for the buttons we have a division with the class of buttons. So let's target that. Here I'll just tap buttons, and let's set it to display flex and flex direction to column, and we will add a gap of 16 pixels, and let's also decrease the width of these buttons. So let's type buttons a.btn, because here we can see we have this anchor tag with a class of btn. So let's set a max width for the buttons, and let's set it to, let's try 160 pixels, and I think that looks alright. Right, now let's scroll down, and we will decrease the font size of the heading. So let's tap section h2, and let's set a font size of 30 pixels, and we'll also decrease the font size of this before selector. So let's type section h2 colon colon before, and let's set the font size to 40 pixels, and we'll also set a top value of -20 pixels, and I think that looks alright. Now for the gallery we just need to have one image in a row. So let's type gallery, and let's set the grid template columns to 1fr, and we'll also set a max width. So let's type max width, and let's set it to 300 pixels, And we'll also bring it to the center. So let's tap margin 0 for top and bottom and auto for left and right. Right, that's it with the My Project section. Now let's scroll down, and I don't think we need to change anything in the services section. Let's scroll down. Now here in the testimonials section, we'll just decrease the height of this quote icon. Let's type testimonials swiper slide quote icon, and let's set a height of 60 pixels, and let's set the top position to 140 pixels. And I think we can decrease the font size a little bit. So let's right click over here and inspect. And for the paragraph, we have a font size of 18 pixels. So let's copy this selector and let's paste it over here. And let's set the font size to 16 pixels, and that looks alright. Right, now let's scroll down, and we have the My Skills section. Now for the My Skills section, we'll just have 2 skills in a row. So here I just type skills icons container, and we will set grid template columns to 1FR 1FR. Right, so that's it with the My Skills section. Let's scroll down, and the last thing we will do is we will decrease the font size of this logo. So let's type footer logo, and let's set the font size to 24 pixels. Right, so that's basically it with the smartphone version of our website. Now let's click on this menu icon, and we can see that the menu items are displayed over here, but the position of the close icon is not correct. So let's right click over here and inspect, and let's click on the close icon. And for the close icon also, we have set a padding of 0.50 pixels. So let's copy this selector, and let's paste it inside the media query of the tablet version. So I'll just paste it over here, and here I'll just type padding, and we have set a padding of 0.32 pixels for the wrapper. So we will do the same over here as well. We can also copy and paste this selector from here and add it over here. So I'll just add a comma and paste it over here, and let's delete this. Alright, so now we have the close icon in the correct position. So that's basically it with the design of our website. Now in this video, I'll show you how to host your website online for free using a service called Netlify. Now the first thing you have to do is go to netlify.com and create a free account, and you can also log in using your GitHub account. And I will also leave the link of the source code of this design in the description, so you can go ahead and check that out. Alright, once you are here in the Netlify dashboard, you can go over here to sites, and if you scroll down, we can see that we can just drag and drop the website folder over here. Alright, so here is my website folder, and in that we have the images folder and also these 3 files. So we're going to drag and drop this folder into Netlify. So let's drag this from here and drop it over here. And here we can see that our website has been hosted. So this is how fast you can host your website using Netlify. Now you can go ahead and change the URL of your website. So just click on domain settings. And if you scroll down, we can see that we have these options, and we can edit the site name. And if you have a custom domain already purchased, you can go ahead and add that over here. You can learn more about that over here. But for now, let's change the site name. So let's click on edit site name. And here we'll just add some URL. So I'll just type my portfolio. Let's see whether it is available. And this name is already taken. So let's add some random numbers over here. And now we can see this is the URL of our website. So let's open this. And this is how our website looks, and everything looks just as we designed. And we also have this menu button over here, and everything works alright. Let's click on one of these dots, and we are taken to that section. But one thing we need to fix over here is this contact form. So right now, if we just add some values over here, so let's just type some basic values. And let's type hello over here, and let's click on send message. And we can see that when we click on send message, nothing happens. It just brings us back to the hero section. So now we need to make the contact form work. Now we can do that easily using Netlify. So in Netlify, you already have some functionality for forms. So here we can see forms, and if I click on that, and here we can see we need to add a name for our form, and we also need to add this Netlify attribute. And of course, we need to add the name for the input fields as well. And then for the button, we need to set the type to submit. So let's go back to our source code. And this is the source code. So let's scroll down and go to the contact form. And here we can see this is the form. So let's just delete the action from here. I'll just add a name for the contact form. I'll just set it to contact. And we'll also set the method to post. And then we will add this attribute called Netlify. Right now for the input fields, we need to add the names. So let's type name, and this is for name. So I'll just type name over here. And then here I'll just type name equals, and this is for the email. So I'll just type email. And then for the text area, which is the message, I'll just type message over here. And now for this button, we need to set the type to submit. So I'll just type type equals submit. Alright, so now we have made the changes to our contact form. Now let's update our website. Now to update the website, you have to go over here to deploys in Netlify. And here we can see we have this text written called, if you need to update your website, you can just drag and drop your site folder over here. So let's go to our site folder. And this is the site folder. I'll just drag and drop it over here. And our website has been updated. So let's open this once more. Right now, let's go to the contact form. And here let's add some values. And I'll just type some message over here. Right now, let's click on send message. And now we can see we have this response by Netlify. So let's click on back to our website. And now let's go back to our Netlify dashboard and let's click on forms. And if you scroll down, we can see that we have the active forms. So let's click on contact. And if you scroll down, we can see that we have this message that we just sent. So if I click on that, we have the name, the email ID, and the message. So that's how you make the contact form work in your website. Alright, so here I'm in the Blogger dashboard, and the first thing we will do is create a new site. Now since this is a single page website, we don't need to have any posts in our Blogger website. So let's go ahead and create a new blog. And I'll just name the title as My Portfolio. And let's click on next. And let's choose an address. Let's try My Portfolio and let's see whether it is available. And it's not available. Let's add some random numbers. Alright, this is available. So let's go ahead and click on save. Alright, so this is our website. So let's go over here to theme. And by default, it has this Contempo Light theme. So if I just open this website, this is how our website looks right now. Now we don't want to have any of this design. We want to have our custom design, which is this design right here. So for that, let's go into the theme code. So let's click on this arrow and click on edit HTML. Now we need to delete all the code of the current theme. So the first thing we will do is delete everything inside the C data. So inside this bskin C data, we have all the CSS of our current theme. So let's start from here and let's scroll down and go to the end. Now this is where the CSS ends. So let's select it till here and let's delete it. Right now let's delete everything else inside the head section. So I'll just search for the starting body tag. So here we can see this is where the head tag ends. Now we need to delete everything else inside the head section. So we can select everything from here till this line over here. And let's delete it. Right now the next thing we need to do is delete everything inside the body. So I'll just fold all of this and I'll just delete this and just create a starting and an ending body tag. Right now if we click on save, here we can see we have this message, we did not find any section in your theme. So a theme must have at least one B section tag. So let's add that. So here inside the body tag, let's create a B section. So just type B:section. And for the section we need to have an ID. So I'll just type ID. I'll just add an ID of main. And let's close the section over here. And now let's click on save. And now we can see that our theme was successfully updated. Now the next thing we will do is add all the code. So let's go to the source code. Now I will leave the link of the source code in the description of this video, so you can go ahead and check that out. The first thing we will do is copy everything inside the head. So here we have all these lines of code inside the head section. So I'll just copy everything from the title till this link right here. We don't need to copy the link of the style.css file because we're going to just copy and paste the CSS directly into the theme. So I'll just copy this and let's paste it over here inside the head section. And here we already have this title by the theme itself, so let's delete this line of code. Alright, now the next thing we will do is add all the CSS. So we need to add the CSS inside the bskin tag. So inside the C data, we will add all the CSS. So let's go back to our source code and let's go to the style.css file and let's copy everything from here and let's paste it over here. Alright, our CSS has been copied. Now let's copy all the HTML. So here, just after the B section tag, let's paste the HTML. Let's go back to our source code and let's go to the HTML file and let's copy everything from here till the end. So I'll just copy it till here. Now we don't need to copy this line of code for the main.js file because we're just going to copy and paste the JavaScript directly into our theme. So let's copy all of this and let's paste it over here. Right now let's create a script tag for our JavaScript. And here in the script tag, I'll just add the JavaScript. So let's go back to our source code and let's go to the main.js file. And let's copy everything from here. And let's paste it over here inside the script tag. Alright, now let's click on save and let's see whether we have any problems. And here we can see we have this error on line number 10. So let's go to line number 10. So here we can see it says attribute name cross origin must be followed with an equals character. So I'll just remove this. And we also need to add ampersand AMP semicolon for all the ampersand signs. So here we have this ampersand sign. So we need to add AMP semicolon. And we need to do the same over here as well because here also we have this ampersand symbol. So let's type AMP semicolon. Alright, now let's click on save. And we have some more problems. We have a problem at line number 898 where it says the attribute Netlify should be followed by the equals character. So let's go to line number 898. And here we can see we had added this Netlify attribute to our form. Now we had added this so that the form should work in our Netlify website. But for now we can just delete this from here. Alright, now let's click on save and let's see whether we have any more issues. And now we have this problem at line number 919. So let's go to 919. So here we have this ampersand symbol. So for that we have to type AMP semicolon and let's save it. And the next issue that we have is at line number 990. So let's scroll down and here we can see at 990 also we have this ampersand symbol. So let's type AMP semicolon and AMP semicolon. And we can also see this error over here. So this is for the less than symbol. So wherever we have this less than symbol, we have to type ampersand LT semicolon. And here also we have this less than symbol. So let's type ampersand LT semicolon. And let's click on save. And now we can see that our theme was updated successfully. So let's go to our website and let's refresh and let's see how it looks. So here we can see all the CSS has been added and we just need to add the images. So everything else is working alright. Now for the images, we're going to use a service called Cloudinary. You can create a free account on cloudinary.com and just log into your Cloudinary account and go to media library. And here we already have these two demo images uploaded. So let's click on upload and let's click on browse. And these are all the images that we need in our website. So let's select all of this. And by the way, these images are inside the images folder in our project. So let's click on open. And we can see all the images have been uploaded to our Cloudinary account. Now we just need to get the link of these images and paste them into our theme code. So let's go to our template code and let's scroll down and go to the HTML. So here we have the HTML and the first thing we need to have is the image for the menu icon. So let's go to the Cloudinary account and let's scroll down and this is the menu icon. So let's click on this button to copy the URL. And let's go back and paste it over here. And now if we save this, and if you go back to our website, and if I refresh this page, here we can see we have this menu icon image displayed over here, and if I click on that, everything is working alright. So in the same way, we need to add all the other images. So you can just go back to your theme code and go to wherever you have the images. So here we can see the next image that we need to have is the close icon. So we can just go over here to the Cloudinary account and search for the close icon. So this is the close icon. Let's click on copy URL and let's paste it over here. So in this way you can go ahead and update all the other image links. So I'll just do it really quick. Right, so here I have updated the links of all the images. So let's click on save. And let's go back to our website and let's refresh this page. And now here we can see we have this custom design for our website. Let's click on this menu icon and we have all these menus. Let's click on the close icon and everything works alright. Let's click on one of these dots and we are taken to that section. So everything is working alright. Let's check whether the swiper is working alright. So we don't have any problems. Let's scroll down and everything is working alright. So that's how you can turn a Blogger website into a custom single page website. Now there's one more thing remaining in this website, which is this contact form. Now there are different ways of making this contact form work. You can use a third-party contact form to make it work, or you can also make use of the default contact form by Blogger. So right now if we click on this send message button, we get this error over here. So we need to fix that. Now we're going to make use of the contact form that comes by default with Blogger, and we're going to change the design to make it look like this. Right, first of all, let's go to the Blogger dashboard and let's go to theme and let's click on this arrow and click on edit HTML. And let's scroll down and go to the HTML and let's go to the contact section. So this is the contact section. So what we will do is I'll just make some space over here, and here I'll just add the widget of contact form by Blogger. So the first thing we need to do is create a B section. So let's create a B section and we need to add an ID, and let's give it an ID of contact section, and let's close the B section over here. Now the next thing we need to do is add a Blogger widget. Now for a Blogger widget you need to have a section, so that's why we added this section over here. So let's create a B widget and we'll give it an ID of contact form 1, and we'll give it a type of contact form, and let's close it over here. Right now what will happen is that Blogger will generate some code automatically when we save this theme. So let's click on save, and now let's scroll down, and here we can see after our default contact section we have this contact widget by Blogger. So here we can see it has created all this code for us till here. Now if we go back to our website and if I refresh this page and if I scroll down, here we can see this is the default contact form by Blogger. Now we need to make this design look like this. Now the first thing we need to do is remove these labels. So let's go back to our theme code and let's remove this label from here, and we'll also remove this paragraph tag, and we'll also remove this BR tag. So if you scroll up to the contact form, here we can see inside the form we have the input fields. We don't have any paragraph tag or BR tags. So let's remove all the unnecessary tags from here. So we'll remove these paragraphs, this label and this BR tag. We will do the same for these 3 lines of code. And then we have this paragraph over here, so let's remove this as well. And then we also have this paragraph over here. Let's remove this. And then we have this input button, and after that we have these 2 paragraph tags for the error and the success messages. Right now let's scroll up and let's see what else we need to have. So we need to have this placeholder for all these input fields. So for the first one we have a placeholder of full name, then we have email, and then for the text area we have a placeholder of message. So let's scroll down and let's add them. For the first one, let's add a placeholder of full name, And then for the second input field, let's add a placeholder of email. And then for the text area, we will have a placeholder of message. And let's see what are the number of rows we need to have. So we need to have rows 10. So let's change 5 to 10. And then for the submit button, let's see what else we need to do. So for the button, we have a button tag with a class of button and light. And for the text, we need to have send message. So let's scroll down. And here for this button, we already have these two classes. Let's also add our class called btn and light. And for the value, we need to set it to send message. Right now it is set to send. So I'll just delete this attribute from here. So we don't need to have an expression, we need to have a value. So let's type value equals, and let's type send message. Right now the next thing we will do is structure this contact form just like this form right here. So first of all, we have this section with a class of contact and an ID of contact, and in that we have this wrapper, and in the wrapper we have this h2, and then we have this form. So let's copy these 3 lines of code from here, and let's paste it over here. And let's copy these 2 lines of code from here, these ending tags for div and section. So let's copy these, and let's paste it over here. Right now let's click on save, and let's see what else we need to change. Let's go back to our website and let's refresh this page. So this is our default contact form, and this is the contact form from Blogger, and it looks almost similar. Now we need to remove this heading from here. So let's go back to our theme code and let's go to the contact form. And here we can see we have this line of code which includes the widget title. So the widget title is contact form. So let's remove this line of code from here. And now let's click on save. And let's go back to our website and let's refresh this page. And now we don't seem to have any problem. So let's click on send message. And here we have this error message over here. And let's right click over here and click on inspect. And here we can see we have this paragraph tag. Now we need to change the color of this text to white. So if I just type color white, this is how it looks. And here we can see the paragraph tag is inside a div. And for the div, we already have some styles applied over here. We have text aligned to center and max width set to 222. So what we will do is we'll just remove this max width from here. So if I just remove that from here, let's see what happens. And now we can see it looks even better. Now let's make these changes in our theme code. So let's go back to our theme code. Let's scroll down. And here in the contact form, here we can see for the division we have this style of text align center and max with 222 pixels. Let's remove this. And here for the paragraph, let's add a style. Let's set it to color white. And we'll do the same for this paragraph. We'll set the color of the text to white. Right now let's save this. And let's go back to our website and let's refresh this page. Now let's click on send message. And here we can see we have this error message and we have the correct styling. Let's add some values over here. So I'll just type john@email.com, and let's type some text over here. And let's click on send message. And now we can see that the message was sent, and this message will be sent to the email ID associated with your Blogger website. But here we can see after sending the message, we have a different styling for the button. So let's right click over here and let's click on inspect. Now we had added the class btn for this input field, but after sending the message, the class has disappeared from here. So what we will do is we will add the same styling to this selector as well. So here we can see that they are selecting input of type button. So let's go back to our template code and let's go to the CSS of the button. So this is the CSS for the button. So I just add the selector over here. So for the contact form, we have a class called contact form, and in that we have this form, and in that we have this input with the type of button. So let's add that selector over here. I just type contact form input of type button, and here we will add a comma. And now let's save this. And let's go back to our website and let's refresh this page. And here we'll just add some dummy value. And let's click on send message. And now we have some improvement. Now we need to change the width to fit to the content of the button, and we also need to position it to the right over here. So let's go back to our theme code and let's go to the button CSS. So here I'll just add contact form input of type button, and here I'll just set the width to fit content. And since this is inside a flex box, we can just type align self and set it to flex end, so it will be aligned to the right. Now let's click on save. Now let's test our website once more, and let's add some values over here, and let's click on send message. And now we can see everything looks alright. So now we can safely delete this contact form from here. So let's go back to our theme code and let's scroll down. And let's delete this contact form. And let's save it. Let's go back to our website and let's refresh this page. And everything looks alright. So that's basically how you make your contact form work in your Blogger website. Alright, so that's it for this video, and with that we have completed designing this portfolio website from scratch using HTML, CSS and JavaScript. So if you have any doubts, you can ask in the comments below, and I will also leave the link of the source code in the description of this video. And if you like this video, please click on the like button and subscribe to this channel to get the latest video updates. Thanks a lot for watching. Have a nice day.